Okay, you've got some shoulder pain. The most common question is my rotator cuff torn? In today's video, we're going to cover briefly the idea behind rotator cuff tears, how common they are, and then do you have one? So just because your shoulder is hurting absolutely does not mean that you have a rotator cuff tear. Now, the older we do get, the likelihood of us having a tear is elevated, kind of decade over decade over decade. But again, that doesn't always mean that we're going to have symptoms. We've got numerous studies, and I also have clinical experience where sometimes we find those things and someone doesn't have any pain at all. In fact, I think back to several years ago, I was treating a Major League Baseball player with elbow pain. We sent him off to camp. His team physician wants all of his records, and then they do a MRI of his shoulder and an MRI of his elbow because he's been in the league for a long time. And he calls me in a panic saying, hey, they just found a 90% rotator cuff tear. What do I do? And mind you, he's never spent one day on the injured list. He's never had surgery. He's never had an injury. And because of his sport, we're going to see those things. And as I kind of helped him understand in his sport, that stuff is actually fairly common. Now, that's a different discussion for another time, but what I want you to know is as you get older in life, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, the chances of us just finding some type of small to medium-sized tear in your shoulder elevates. And so sometimes when we get in an MRI tube from the get-go just because we have pain, we find red herrings. So it's always good to go back to what does the physical exam look like, what are your symptoms, and then how are we functioning? Because yeah, sometimes we have a torn rotator cuff, and then sometimes we don't at all. Our shoulder just hurts and it's inflamed and it needs to cool off from whatever activities are irritating it, and then we build our function back through progressive strengthening and some soft tissue work to help us along the way. So in short, just because we have shoulder pain, does it mean we have a rotator cuff tear? Not always. It doesn't mean we need an MRI? Generally, no. Does it mean that we need to do anything about it if we do find a rotator cuff tear? Well, that's why you see somebody like me, so we can help you decide what's the best plan for you.